I loved the storytelling that came, with writing. And I also liked, that same aspect in photos, like a story that a photo can tell. And when you marry those two things together, you get filmmaking.
It's great.
Welcome to Set Life, where we tell stories from our industry. I'm Kelly Leger, and this is Amber Buteau.
Welcome to Set Life. I'm Amber Buteau, and my guest host today, I like to call him Shy, but it's Scheider.
Hi, I'm Scheider Davina, and about a year ago, I was on the other side of the chair. Like I'm on where our guest is today.
Yeah.
And it's great. Now we're moving one seat over. Totally different, but first time under this light, I'm like, everything's so soft. Like the softest light ever. So cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not only were you a guest a year ago, which we need to catch up on your story on another episode. We need to redo your episode even.
Oh, yeah. Tons of things have happened.
But today, not only are you a co-host with me today, but you've brought a guest with you today. So introduce us to your guest today.
Everybody, this is my dear friend, Sarah. Sarah, say hi to the camera.
Hello, everybody.
I met Sarah at an Airy workshop at Captive Studios about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's through a friend, our friend Kerwin was hosting. And that was like the first time I've heard and met Sarah.
I forgot you hosted that.
No, I didn't host it. Kerwin did.
No, yeah. I forgot
he did.
He did that. So proud of him.
Yeah. Shout out to the boys at Captive Studio.
Yes, and Asha.
You know, if you haven't seen the episode with Justin, go check that out. But yes. Captive Studios and the boys and the girl, Asha, our chaos coordinator today.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks for being here at the studio.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yep.
Yeah, so what we like to do here is we kind of tell your story, how you got into the industry and talk about that. And then we arrive at where you are now and what you're doing now. Because I know you've done some really great things, like you said, at Captive and with Justin and the guys and your new film that you came out with. But let's go back a bit. How, when, what did you get into this industry?
It's kind of a funny story because I got my undergrad at St. Thomas and I got an English degree. My concentration was creative writing, so I was doing a lot of writing. I took a script writing course, a playwriting course, and I've always done photography. That was kind of one of my first loves as a little girl, and I realized that I loved the storytelling that came, with writing. And I also liked, that same aspect in photos, like a story that a photo can tell. And when you marry those two things together, you get filmmaking.
It's great.
And so after I graduated, I was like, man, I really want to pursue this. And I think the issue was, money at the time, just trying to find a school that I could afford for filmmaking. There's not a lot here. Everything was just either in LA or New York and definitely didn't have the money to go there.
Yeah.
And so I found HCC, and the one in A-Leaf is the one that offers their filmmaking course or their program. And I enrolled in a singular class at HCC, and it was production management with Story Hive's Courtney Sandifer. I'm not sure if y'all know her, but
oh wow,
yeah, she was my instructor, and I sat next to probably two of the most prominent people in our industry today. I sat next to Reese Moffat and Kerwin Escobar.
Wow,
and they were kids at the time, 19 years old. Wow. Yeah, I had gone back, I think at 26, so like 8 years their senior, and I say this all the time. They took me under their wing. They were 19, 20 already on all kinds of sets and projects, and I asked them, like, whatever you can bring me on, like, I'd love to be a part of it, like, just as a PA. And that's how I started. I got my foot in that way with them, and it was so much fun. And I was, telling Scheider earlier that we all kind of stuck together, and even though we all had different goals and things in mind for the path that we wanted to take, we kind of went on it at the same time and are where we are now.
Yeah, that's great. I love hearing all these stories of how people started and how there's some usually leap of faith of some kind, right? Like pursuing, this is such a passionate industry. Everybody's really passionate.
Yes.
And to watch people take that step faith, or what I call it, or pursuit of that passion, you know, you can hear all the obstacles, which is a lot of people say in this industry, you got to have finances, you know, that's a big thing. But the way that all the individuals have been like, you know what, I'm going to do one class in faith and our pursuit of what I am passionate about, what I just love. I'm going to invest in what I love. And then how the opportunities open up from there by just that step, you know. Shy, you've been another one of those that has done the same thing, you know, that's just constantly been pursuing your passion with a humble start and, you know, just willing to say, you know, I'm going to chase after this passion with what I got. And then what I've got's turned into a career that's been really cool to watch. Okay, so you went, they took you under your wing. You started getting on projects with them. Where did it all turn for you when you're like, hey, you were a writer, knew that, but when did it kind of go like, ooh, I think I want to do this in the industry? Or where did that strike?
I think at some point I realized, being on so many sets and hearing other people's stories, that I wanted to tell my own stories, that I had things that I wanted to say, and, you know, images that I wanted to show people. And I knew, you know, staying where I wasn't really going to accomplish that, as much as I like working on other people's projects and supporting. I knew I wanted to do that. I wanted to be in that role too, writing something and directing something of my own. I've always loved photos, like I said, and so I had an image for a film, and I knew I needed to pursue that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this film.
Yeah.
So right after we met, like I think a couple months later, I haven't talked to you after that, but I started seeing like behind the scenes like of Captive Studio working on a project. I'm like, is Interstellar 2 filming in Houston? I'm like, what is going on? And I started seeing this space stuff, and like, can you talk to us about that? Like,
Yeah.
I started feeling FOMO. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on like something huge in Houston.
Yes.
I'm like, how do I get in on this?
Yes.
And, yeah.
So I have been into sci-fi since I was a little girl. My dad is a big sci-fi guy.
Okay.
Like, we watched a lot of Star Wars, a lot of Star Trek in my household. And then any other sci-fi film we could get our hands on. I think Aliens 2 is probably still like top 5 for me.
Wow.
So the Houston Cinema Arts Society puts on a competition every year called CineSpace that partners with NASA, and you have to dig in their archives and pull something out and create a story around it. And it's a requirement for that competition that at least 10% of your film be NASA archival footage. And so Kerwin, again, sent it to me, sent me the link, and said, we need to partake in this, and I have just the place to do it. And it was Captive. And we set up a meeting with Justin to go to kind of pitch it to him, basically. I had, you know, all my little papers together, and we go there, me and Kerwin as like my support, and the whole team is there. I hadn't met any of them yet. I had only really met Justin for the workshop. And so I go in and the whole team is there, and I'm like, I'm supposed to have a meeting like with Justin, and they're like, oh no, we're all gonna talk about it. And I was like, great.
It was intimidating.
Oh yeah, it was like 5 of them, and so I sit down with my little binder and I pull out my script and I pitched them CAS, and immediately they all said yes, let's do this.
Where did we get the name CAS from?
So CAS is actually after the Cassini satellite that NASA sent out to Saturn to explore, collect information about Saturn, all its moons. So it's a legitimate like space satellite that we sent out called Cassini. And I love the name. The moment I read it, I was like, oh, I'm using this for sure.
Wow.
And so,
So cool.
So tell us the plot of CAS. Like, what is CAS for people that don't know?
Yeah.
And maybe we'll be able to have some of the clips from CAS and we can drop them in here so people can see, because it is exceptionally well.
Thank you so much.
Insane. Like, just the screenshots that I've seen. I haven't seen the full length of the film, but
I'll
I'm
get
like,
y'all the
oh
link.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. So CAS was born entirely from the Cassini satellite, like I said. So what the idea was is that they bioengineered a small child and put it on this satellite secretly and sent it out to Saturn to see, you know, if Saturn or Titan or any of its moons, Titan specifically, would be able to sustain human life. You know, it's known right now that Titan is a possible place that we could potentially go to live at some point. It's very far off, but I love the idea of Titan as somewhere that we could, you know, inhabit. And so the idea was that they sent her out there as a test subject of some sort. And her idea is that she's this explorer going out to collect information, and at some point she's going to return home to Earth. And that's not the case. She gets there and they crash essentially, and she's stuck there, and she collects information thinking at some point like they're going to come for her and rescue her, and it never happens. And it's quite a sad story because she comes to realize like that she is like a guinea pig to them and that she's not going home. And so the only way for her to figure out her purpose is to decide whether or not she stays there and bides her time and lives out her life there, or she figures out how to come home. And what's great for me about this story is that she's not alone in any of this. So I wrote Sears, the character, into the story because Sears is actually a name that the Cassini satellite used. It's like a part of the actual satellite. And the idea, you know, I've seen so many sci-fis at this point with this kind of character, but the idea was that he's this robot inside of this spaceship that cares for her, that, you know, raises her basically. And they're together so long that he eventually becomes like this father figure to her. You know, he's raised her since she was a baby when they first put her on that spaceship, and to adulthood, you know, as she spends her time there on Titan. And so she has this, you know, connection with someone, with something, and it's, you know, this computer in her spaceship. And so they both kind of go on this journey together. As much as he's, you know, just a voice in a spaceship, he's also a cognizant being, which is something else I really wanted to touch on, like AI as, you know, something cognizant and real and able to form relationships and love and feel. And so it hits on that. And I won't reveal too much, but, you know, she does decide to go home, and we kind of see where that journey takes her.
So cool.
Wow.
Wow. Like I said earlier, I was like seeing all everybody's Instagram stories. How did you manage to pull off like bringing together the Avengers of Houston, the usual suspects of like, she got the best of the best working on this film. I did. Wow. Like what? How? Just talk to us how.
I just, over time, I had met all those people and on some project or another and befriended them and worked with them on things that they worked on, and, you know, supported them in ways that I could. And so turning around and asking them for the favor to help me with mine was pretty simple, and everyone was so thrilled to help and to be there. And it was, like I said, mostly favors. We didn't really have a big budget. That's never been an area that I, you know, was strong in. I couldn't afford anything really, and I couldn't afford them as much as I wanted to pay everyone. I initially started with like, this is what I'm working on. I can't offer much but the promise of the product.
Yeah. And
everyone was like, I don't care.
I think that's also what's really cool about this industry, is if it is a passion, again, of somebody's, if they catch the vision of a photography shoot, a movie, a short, a show, if there's a passion behind it and it strikes a chord, everybody just loves working together because it's not work at that point. It's not like you're just having fun doing it together. I mean, I think a lot of people get taken advantage of in this industry, but not when it's in a healthy way.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what we're hearing in your story is everybody was like, oh, cool. Like, just like Shai saying, he saw it and he's like, that's so cool. I want to be a part. Like, I want to help, you know, out of just a passion and a love to see the community grow together, rise together, work together. And I love that about this industry as a whole, you know, and especially what I'm seeing in Houston grow, you know, in just a short amount of time. I really feel like the industry in Houston was thriving back in the 80s, kind of tanked down a little bit. And I think there's a little bit of a rebirth happening in Houston.
Shifting.
Yeah.
Texas also.
Yeah, in Texas and Houston. And You know, and I think it's projects like yours that shows the capability that is here.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the quality that all of those people pulling together to create one vision, that's filmmaking mastery.
Especially in the younger generation.
Yeah.
Like I said, I went to HCC and everyone there was, you know, fresh out of high school, like 18, 19, and already having been on so many projects. And it was crazy to, you know, pull knowledge from them, you know, being, you know, 8 years their senior or something like that. And I continue to learn from everyone younger than me. Everyone at this point that I've worked with on CAS was probably younger than me, and I learned from them daily on that set.
So
I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary that the younger generation gets into the filmmaking, because that's who eventually you're reaching, right? Like blending, that's what I say here all the time. You know, keep as many young creatives around, the mentorship of the guys that have been doing it for a long time. But this is an industry that's always changing. Every industry has fundamental things, like the core foundation of every industry stays. You know, like you're not changing some of the basic things with lighting and cinematography and things like that. But the innovative things that have come since, let's say somebody who's a master at it now and 40 years, just think of the technology now compared to then, right? You know, like I know that you shot a lot of casts on an LED wall. Didn't exist.
Yeah.
You know, so those guys, they have to bring those expertise and passions and what can we do? What do we do to make this better? And, you know, Justin and them over there are really committed to figure that space out and figure it out well.
Yes.
You know, and so it takes projects like yours to do that with, you know, and show the capability. So I think it's been really cool to watch all of that evolve.
What are the best things top things that you learned from directing that film?
Oh, wow. Well, directing, first of all. Well, that was the first film
First film?
Yes.
Oh,
I had ever directed. Yeah.
Wow.
So I had written a lot of things. I've been writing since grade school. But stepping into directing, I had first AD'd something before, so I was used to kind of yelling at everybody on set.
Sarah yelling?
Just kind of telling everyone to be quiet. And so it was kind of comfortable, but it was still very daunting, very, very daunting. And I think at some point, like after the first day, Justin pulled me aside and he was like, "You're not a PA anymore. Like you don't have to help with everything on set. Like you're the director, you need to focus on being the director. Like you're calling the shots. Like you have hands and you can tell them, you know, what you need. Like you don't need to be on the platform moving the table, you know, 5 inches or, you know, picking up chairs and, you know, bringing them to the platform. Like that's what we're here for." And so it was really kind of like owning that I was the director of this film was, you know, the one thing I had to learn really is that, you know, I am in control and I can tell these people what to do. Like I'm the boss. And I don't know, I think that was the biggest takeaway. And then it was just, you know, smaller things like using an LED wall. Like, what is that? I had never seen its like. And so learning how to use it properly was difficult because even like for Justin, like they had just got that wall. And so he was still, you know, learning, you know, everything about it. And like lighting it was totally different from lighting like something practical because you're basically lighting a computer screen. And it casts like funky shadows. So there was a learning curve there for sure. And we kind of learned together and as we went and, you know, the tools that we needed, you know, to put our character in space were tools we had never used before. Like Unreal Engine is something I had never heard of. It's a big gamer like world building.
That's my world.
I mean, it's so cool. I talk about it and something I'm working on right now. How there's just so much room for creation in Unreal Engine. And so we downloaded a couple assets from there and, you know, built our world and tried to navigate through it, you know, as we were shooting. I think that was the hardest part. I think had we had more time beforehand to really explore it, we would have felt a little better, but you know, it was crunch time. So we were learning as we went and Unreal Engine was such a great asset. And as much as we didn't know how to use it, I think we got some stuff that came out pretty great, and we're pretty proud of it.
Yeah. I think it's great that you learned sitting in the director's role from a PA position I think everybody starts wanting to be a director. That's probably the number one thing I hear the most. Like, I just really like to direct. Yeah. I'm like, well, we're going to start with PAing.
Yeah, but not go through the whole.
Yeah.
Skip to the.
Yeah. And you wear so many hats along the way.
Yeah.
Like I was a boom up on something at some point.
Yeah. But don't you think that made you a better director?
100%.
Yeah.
Wearing all those hats and knowing what the roles, take.
Yeah.
And
And so it's a process. And that's one of the things that I love about this show is being able to talk about our processes that we've all gone through, because it's really easy to look at somebody and go like, oh, they've made a film. They've done it. Yeah. Well, you didn't hear the 1 million other things they did to get to that place. And even when they got to that place, it was still like somebody had to pull you to the side and go like, no, like you're the director.
Yeah.
Like stop being the PA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there it's that, but that's because it's just a natural evolution because you were so invested in just doing whatever it took to be a part of things. I know that's for sure that's a passion of Shy's too. I mean, he can do all kinds of jobs on set, but depending on he says yes to most of them if he can, to help out and give and serve and be a part because he understands that it's going to make him better at whatever he's wanting to do, knowing and being a part of all those things. It sounds like you had the same kind of career, and I can't say that enough to people watching that want a true career in this industry. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Being humble to be like, yep, my hands are working and they will work wherever to eventually get into that place. And then it says something about you too, to be able to be pulled aside and be able to say, hey, we're empowering you to take leadership essentially of the set as a director. So lead from here. We'll get those things, but lead from here so that you can stay focused. It was a huge passion of ours here at the studio to have a concierge service, to have all different services that help the production team just do production. Because it's amazing how many things you have to do. For those that don't know production, how many moving parts there are in a production, that if everybody can just focus on their thing, the level that gets raised.
Absolutely.
So as many as like if one person's doing 10 jobs, well, that's the level you're going to get.
Ceiling
there is
that you're going to hit super quickly.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you can take some of that off and then just say, hey, let us as a studio, let us take on some of these things that actually don't have anything to do with production, but still have to happen in the day, that aren't, let's just say, on camera, so that the on camera can be the best that it can be.
Yes.
So having that right team around you and then having people that you can pull aside and just that whole community that works well together.
Yeah.
We were on a shoot the other day together that you were running and doing and hired everybody and did the whole video. And they said afterwards, man, this was one of the greatest things I've ever.
And I think that's really important. Like I've been getting a lot of jobs where like I'm able to bring a whole crew. Yeah. And like you said, like it's like people you're going to reach out to your first circle first.
Yes.
And these are the people that you look at them in the eye, you already know what you want. What you need. Yeah. Like, and they're the best of the best. Like they're very kind people. They're very like active listeners, and they're just on it. They just want to be on set with you. And it's like, and I think that's the culture you create and allow that will like just grow. Like, and
allow is a good word because I think we have all been on enough sets to know what not to do and what we won't, allow in our like circles. Yeah. So I definitely have been on a couple where I was like, okay, not taking that to the next one.
Don't want that.
Or,
because a lot of this unnecessary, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't like it when like literally my shoot will stop if someone starts yelling. Like we're going home. Like I do not care if the client gets pissed. We're all going home. We're just not going to get good product. We'll come back tomorrow. Yeah. And I'll take the hit, whatever. Yeah. So that's very, very important for me. But I do, however, also want to commend, I just want to go back a couple steps backwards. It takes people building the infrastructure in Houston, people like Captive, people like For the One, like so that creatives can actually flourish and build the garden. Like if there's no land, creatives can't plant the flowers. Like so thank you, Amber, for building spaces like this. You know, that people like, oh, we can shoot this here. We didn't know. Yeah. Like we had a Nike shoot here a couple of weeks ago. We had a whole film set, like a whole house. A whole house built in a warehouse. Yeah. I'm like, I've never seen that. Like, but it takes a lot, you know, the people of Houston, like, to show the world that, like, no, you can come here. You can do this. Like your whole film, I'm like, what? That's filmed in Houston? No one would ever, like, believe that.
Yeah.
Like, so
it's because of places like this place and Captive Studios. If I was, you know, just telling him out there, if Captive didn't exist, I don't know if I would have a film. Yeah. So put it like that.
So thank you for investing in this generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure everybody knows that.
Thanks, Shai. Yeah, I mean, I think all of us, but I think, you know, that goes back to community and getting all the right pieces together to foster and build this so that we can all work together, and having the right heart, you know, behind it. And I think that Justin's been on our show, and Justin and I were friends before, when I was building this place and before Captive was built. And, you know, we both believe in community here. We both believe in all ships rise when the tides rise, right? Like, everybody rises together if we all choose to work together and find good people and good stories and things that we can get behind and support and help foster, because it just makes everything better. And so that's been fun to be on a new groundbreaking, new birthing season, I guess, around here. In that to watch people like yourselves flourish and grow and be able to take the leaps of faith and start as a PA and start as saying, you know, I would love to just take one class because I have a passion for this, that turns into a great film, which I know. Let's get to where your film's going. Yes. And also, how can people watch it? And how can they reach out to you, connect with you, all of that? It's a lot in once, but let's head into that.
Yeah, we finished CAS actually a year ago this month. And so it's been on the festival circuit for a while. We did the Houston Latino Film Festival in March, and obviously the CineSpace competition back in last November. We were a finalist in that competition, which is incredible because it's an international festival. So international recognition, and they only chose, I think, 11 finalists out of 400 some odd submissions.
Insane.
Yes. For my first film.
I'm like,
I know.
I'm like, okay.
And not to say that we didn't get a lot of rejections. I applied to a lot of different film festivals, and I think there was 7 that we didn't get into out of, 10 that I applied to. And the last one that we heard back from was in LA. It's the LA Women's Independent Film Festival, and we are a winner in that festival for Best Sci-Fi Short. And I think after this year, I'd kind of like to put a cap on her and start a new project. So we'll probably have 1 or 2 more screenings here in the next few months, and then, put a bow on her and start something else. I think that's the beauty of film, is that, you close one chapter and you open another and do it all over again and tell so many incredible stories. And because it's currently running the festival circuit, I don't have it linked anywhere at the time. It's password protected, so if you want to just reach out to me, I'll send it out. But we have a website for it. It's castthefilm.com. Any and all information on the film is there. A trailer is there, and at some point when it's no longer in the festivals, I'll put a live link.
Great. And so how do they reach out to you?
They can reach me on Instagram. It's probably the easiest for everybody these days, at Sarah.o, so SARRAH.o.
Okay.
That's me.
Very good. Very good. So I look forward. Good luck with all the festivals.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to your next project that you have.
Me too.
Hopefully I make it.
Yes. Hopefully
Shai will definitely be a part of it.
I can post IG stories.
Yes. And yeah, for those of you that are watching and listening, reach out to Sarah, check out the film, go to the website, stay up to date. I'm sure there's an Instagram for it too.
Yes, there is.
Yep.
Cast the Film.
Cast the Film. Like, check out. I'm sure you'll be updating all the wins, all the
Absolutely.
information when it's going to be something you can watch.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll drop in a couple of B-roll from the film or
Absolutely. I'll
something
send
into
you-
this episode, so it encourages you to really go and follow what all she's doing. So thank you for being a guest.
Thank you so much for
We're-
having me.
Yeah, we were so happy to hear your story. And Shai,
Thank
it's
you.
always fun hanging out with you. So thanks for sitting in with us today. Until then, we'll see you on Set Life.
I'm ready to go watch the film. Bye.